What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to the House of Kayfabe. I am the other Steve, and I am here with two of the residents that were at the AEW tapings. I've got Steve New, the man who's so famous in West Virginia that they named a river after him, and then I've got the walking wrestling encyclopedia, Derek Jones. Fellas, I haven't seen you since last Wednesday. How you doing?
Doing great.
Derek, I feel like we saw history. We all just knew we were going to go to AEW because remarks, and they came close and we were going to go. We're going to talk about a few of the matches. And first, I'd like to get this out of the way. This video you would think would have happened like the day after the show, but we kind of wanted to wait to let the dirt sheet shake out so we would have a little bit more knowledge of what we were really seeing. Because when we were seeing that CM Punk promo, I didn't register. Derek, when he said all that stuff about Hangman, did you have, because you of course are the AEW super fan, did you have that information? Were you thinking like, oh shit, he's shooting on Hangman right here?
Nothing that would have made me honestly believe it was a shoot, other than just the fact that he said there's a rematch entitled and maybe he's tying up a loose end, but an actual shoot, no.
Did you know anything about, some rumor and innuendo of there being heat back there?
So there's been like a few opportunities where people have said Hangman has cut a shoot promo and it kind of rubbed people the wrong way, but it was just blips. Like nothing ever come of it. There wasn't any steady traffic of people talking about it. So no one really knew if it was work or shoot.
I mean, there's an AEW Twitter, right?
Yeah.
I am definitely not part of AEW Twitter. A man who's big on Twitter and that gets most of his famous clientele through DMs. Stephen P. New, we were ringside for this thing. I'm pretty sure you didn't know anything about the backstage stuff. When we heard it live, it was a little jarring and didn't make sense, right? What do you think, Steve?
Well, yeah, when he started out with Hangman Page, yet he's got a title unification or a return or whatever with Moxley. You and I looked at each other, Barker, and we were like, this is strange that he's starting with Hangman Page, but all right, let's roll with it. And then he went straight to your apology in public needs to be bigger than the one I got in private or whatever. And then he said, that's not cowboy shit. That's coward shit. I was like, ooh. But still, I didn't know what that stemmed from or any of that, or that it may have had tentacles further than just maybe Page not wanting to drop the strap to Punk.
There's so many rumors flying. If there's anything that the internet wrestling community likes more than rumors and innuendo. Derek, I thought it felt clunky, like the first part of that interview or that wonderful promo that turned into like one of the greatest I've ever seen, maybe. Did you think it felt clunky and like out of place?
The Hangman part of it? Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like it's because he knew he wanted to say something. He knew he shouldn't be saying something, and he didn't quite know how to flow between one person to the next. There was no transition planned, so he really didn't know how to start in on Jon Moxley after he tried to rip up Hangman.
It was clunky. Have y'all watched it again since we went?
I watched it today.
I watched it yesterday. Did you watch it, Steve?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. I, of course, watched it because I wanted to see if I could find myself on TV, and I did. So what was great about this, man, we got to do shows like this all the time. Like we were all within sight distance, and we got to kind of like, non-verbally communicate, like watching these shows. Because Derek was right there. And like during, the Tony Storm match, we got to get back to CM Punk. The Tony Storm match, I just looked over at Derek. I was like, wow, this is killing. And you know what? It didn't come off on TV like it did in the arena. Derek, tell them how cold that arena got, how hot it was. And that match was fine.
Yeah, the match itself. So when you rewatch it on TV, it's structurally fine. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. But the crowd was dead during the match. It was absolutely awful.
Brutal. But let's get back into. So then CM Punk kind of I know we're non-linear. We are all fans of Quentin Tarantino around here. CM Punk destroys Hangman, and we're all wondering,
dead, baby.
Zed's dead. Oh my God, Zed's dead, dude. Hangman's dead after that. But then he went into, and what Derek said in our chat, which was another fun thing, and down the road we have a Patreon, you'll be able to get screenshots from that chat, we swear. Derek wrote in the chat while we were watching this, that might be one of the best promos CM Punk's ever done. Derek, tell us.
It's absolute, like, Punk fan for a long time. That is, and it's going to be hard to say that it's better than the pipe bomb just because without the pipe bomb, this doesn't happen. It's by far his second best promo ever. It was fire. It had relevance. It was so good. And he had a guy that he could play off of to make it even better.
Dude, the 1, 2, 3, you're the third best guy in your group, recurring theme in your career. You're this, and somehow, and dude, how genius was it? This was about Jon Moxley, but he still jabbed Eddie Kingston twice in this promo. And so he kills Kingston, kill shot, and I love him too. And then gives him the, you're going to be the first, like that 3, 2, 1. It was beautiful. Steve knew. Did it feel like the old times again?
It really did, because it felt like, as guys like me and you who watched some classic wrestling, Great Americans in that very building. Ooh, ow, that hurt.
Say that last part again. Say that last part
you
again.
You and I were just looking at each other in real time going, ooh, oh, God dang, that hurt.
Hurting him, and man, it's what promo should be. And here's the thing: WWE getting greater, and Roman Reigns is so good and so over and so big. Ain't nobody on that roster can do that. Derek Jones, who on the WWE can cut a promo like that and make 5,000 people in the arena all emotionally react the way we got manipulated. We got marked, right? Is there who in the WWE could do it?
So, and that's the great thing about what's happening in WWE, and not to steer off course too far, but we don't know yet because they've not been allowed to have that freedom and opportunity. But under the new watch and the new TV rating, I hope there's some guys that really step out and step up and bring more of that to the table of their true self and allow these wrestlers to be pro wrestlers.
Do you think that there was a backstage fight at WWE on who got to say it first? Do you think that there was some like real marks being like, no, I'm going, Kevin Owens was like, I've been a wrestler for fucking 15 years, people. I've always I should say it. I just imagine that argument in the back because we all knew it was going to be said. We know that it's one of the anathema words on Vince McMahon's little don't say list. I just felt like they were all in the back, like, no, like we're going to have a shoot fight. Who gets to say wrestler first? But yeah, I think you're right. I don't know if we know because Roman Reigns does seem like he's off leash. Seth Rollins seems like he's off leash. Do you all agree?
I do. And between Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn, the promos that I've heard and seen from the three of those guys out of Ring of Honor, those will be the guys that will really capture a crowd with a microphone.
Now that's WWE. Of course, we're going to get back to AEW. So CM Punk masterfully kill shots. 3 guys in the back. And only one he's working with, breaking a Vince McMahon rule. Never talk about a match you're not having. Broke 2 big Vince McMahon rules in that promo. And then Steve knew he gets to Jon Moxley. Now, this is where the House of Kayfabe residents are a little split. And we're going to not make this a me and you team up on Derek about Moxley. But I think Jon Moxley is garbage. I didn't like him. I liked him when he was like the Joker, zany guy at WWE.
Yeah, that's what I said. I liked him as Bane Moxley. But let me tell you, if he has a straight up wrestling match with CM Punk, I'm going to love Jon Moxley again.
Please.
All right. It's the blade in himself, in front of a crowd of 110 people that I don't want to see. All right. I think think John Moxley's better than that.
I think he is too. Now, I want to go to Derek, who I know is a certified John Moxley fan. You said that this was maybe the best John Moxley promo you've ever seen.
It absolutely is. It's 100% the best Moxley promo I've ever seen, because Moxley is not a scripted promo kind of guy. He did really interesting stuff, when the Shield first started and they're holding the old school style camera, and he's just sitting there in front of a camera alone by himself recording something, and they may have read and reread and recorded and rewrote 1,000 times before it got right. But he had someone that he could shit talk with. And I don't know that there was any structure to those promos whatsoever, other than the fact they said, on this day in September, you guys are going to have a match, which now it's actually going to happen later on, or earlier, on Wednesday. But all they told them is, you guys, each of you are a champion. One of you's coming out on top. Tell the crowd why it's you. And they just shit talked each other. And I think that John Moxley is not the best type of human being in the world. And he's probably shit talked a lot of people in his life, and it just kind of flows naturally.
Right. Steve, we're both, Moxley doubters. Did you think that it was a great promo?
I did. And I told you right there in real time. I said, Punk has caused Moxley to up his game.
You did say that. You said that CM Punk got it.
Punk has caused Moxley to elevate his game on the mic, same as he'll do in the ring. I told you that night.
Yeah, I do remember that now. We're going to come back to that at the end of this. I want to hit on a few of the match. One more thing. Man, that tear apart looked real. That was good.
That's the way tear aparts are supposed to be done.
Yeah, Derek Jones, that looked real shit, didn't it?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, and the people that they brought out didn't look like just a bunch of underutilized indie talent either. They looked like they found the right people to play security, guys that knew what was going on. They were all smartened up to the situation, and I'm sure they had Mox in ears on this side and Punk in ears on this side saying, hey, in about 3 seconds, I'm doing this. You be ready. I mean, they really put this thing together well.
Yeah,
it was good wrestling. And, I am probably known as the AEW hater on here, and I'm really not. I keep telling everyone I'm an AEW hopeful. And when I see shit like this, I'm like, oh, good wrestling. I know a couple times I looked at Stephen P. New, because I was in Section P. New, that, this is good wrestling. This is what I like. And it was wonderful. And we're going to come back to that, because we now want to, at the end of this video, y'all keep sticking around. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a like, a comment, and share. You want to tell us that we're losers in our mom's basement. Go in the comment section, knock yourself out. But we are going to come back to that at the end of this video. Let's go into some of the matches. I think we've agreed we're not going to talk about all of them. But the first 30 minutes, however long this Bryan Danielson match was wrestling bliss. Derek Jones, we watched a goddamn 5-star classic in Charleston, West Virginia.
Yeah, we did.
That was, in my opinion, if 10 years from now, AEW is going to make a video called the top 100 matches of all time. And that's going to be 1 through 5 somewhere. And it's going to stand up over time against anything you want to put up against it. That was a true wrestling match. Ring of Honor had their pure wrestling division. That match would have eclipsed everything that they would have ever done. Everybody has those real grappling style, submission hold, transition moves, just wrestling. There's not a bunch of flash, not a bunch of nonsense, and look, I got a Young Bucks behind me, so I love that crap too. But I was a wrestler growing up, and to me, that type of match it hits home, and I loved it.
Steve knew we were 10 yards away from one of the ring posts, if that. And I told you that night, when you wrestle Bryan Danielson, I'm sorry. When you wrestle him, it seems like you either talk about it in the back, or just like, hey, I'm going to beat the fucking shit out of you, because as much as he looks real on TV, until you're 10 yards away and he's doing everything safely, as God Emperor says, you're doing dangerous stuff in a safe way. He hit so Steve New. Tell them how hard he hit Daniel Garcia.
My chest hurt. The side of my head hurt. And me and Barker just kept looking at each other, and we were looking at Derek, and we were looking at Matt and Adam. Man, I looked at Barker and I said, "Man, that shit is stiff, dude."
Oh my
and
God.
Barker said, "Oh my God!" And the whelps on the chest, and I'm looking up at Derek, and there's girls in front of us. And by the way, shout out to the family that went to Miami on the House of Kayfabe winners. They were right in front of us. Mm-hmm. And so, see there, stick with House of Kayfabe, folks. Your dreams can come true.
Dude, and I want to just say this. Go ahead.
Those shots were just stiff. I mean, both guys were 2 out of 3 falls match. I love a 2 out of 3 falls match.
It's old school. And what I was going to interject there is Stephen P. New was over at ringside. Everybody knew who the fuck he was. He was handing out cards. Yes, on Jim Cornette's new podcast, he talks about the poor kid who got jumped on by Dragon Lee. Definitely got a card from Stephen P. New. Stephen P. New is always on the job. I think what we really saw in those first 2 segments is what we want out of wrestling is all felt real. That match felt real. That I told Steve, I was like, and I think I even texted it to you, Derek. It's like, this is like a half shoot. They're beating the fucking shit out of each other. And those first 2 segments is reality based combat. And it was fucking wonderful.
And the crowd was hot.
Derek Jones, you were a little bit farther away, but still close to the ring. Could you hear that stuff where you were?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, I was hard cam. If you're watching AEW, I'm right above the back post. I'm there all night long, and you could hear and feel everything. But the biggest takeaway from that match for me, and if anybody was ever a doubter in Red Death Daniel Garcia, you shouldn't be anymore. And if you've not watched that match and you want to have a little bit of an appreciation for this kid, this match will show you that not only can he give, but he can take as much as is dished out to him, because like they said, Daniel Bryan, he was stiff the whole time, and Garcia started giving it right back to him. And again, everything was done safely, properly, but in the true sport of professional wrestling, in a way that made you think, oh, that might have been a little wrong.
Yeah, like y'all might say something at catering after that shot right there. Go ahead, Derek.
But again, in the end, Daniel Garcia coming out of that match, whole new appreciation for the kid. I followed him on the indies a little bit. I was a little skeptical when AEW first brought him in. I hated the idea that he went with the Jericho Appreciation Society, other than the fact that it gave him an opportunity to speak as a heel. But man, that match made him a made man.
Well, I told this to Stephen P. when he came out. I've never been high on him. I even listened to a podcast, and they meme Daniel Garcia as the name for generic wrestler. So he's kind of like what they say. And maybe that I'm influenced by that a little bit. And I was just like, man, why is this happening? And Steve knew, just like Ric Flair did to Sting, except, Daniel Garcia is obviously a better wrestler than Sting. Steve P. knew wrestling can be so easy. Just let the rub. He lost, but he won. Explain to these kids about that old school wrestling mentality.
And that's exactly right. You don't have to win the match to
say that.
You don't
again.
have to win the match to get it. You don't have to win the match to get over. And what Daniel Garcia did in Charleston, West Virginia on August the 17th, 2022 was he got over.
Dude, he's over with me. I was just like, he's just a guy. He's like another guy. Like, looks like I live in a college town, so he looks very much like kind of one of the frat boys on Fifth Avenue.
Whatever he decides to do here, does he leave the Jericho Appreciation Society? Does he join the Blackpool Combat Club? I love those kind of quandaries. And so, here we go. Let's see.
Do we like the Jericho Appreciation Society, Derek?
I don't. I think it's awful.
Me too.
I mean, I understand what they're doing, and I like the guys that are involved in it, but I don't like it. I don't know.
I read an article the other day that I was for sure was like the Wrestling Onion, but it was a complete shoot. And it was Chris Jericho. When I say this, man, Jericho is on my Mount Rushmore. I'm about to post an old episode. If you all really dig what we're doing, go check us out on Apple Podcasts or where you like to see your podcast being listened to. And we're on there and we have a bunch of back catalog and we have one called Our Mount Rushmore. And I'm about to post that. And Chris Jericho's on my Mount Rushmore. He's one of my top 4 favorite wrestlers of all time. And he, in this article, and I thought it was a parody, in the article, he said, I want to retire before I become a joke. You might be a little late, Chris. It's cringy. Like, as a fan, I like seeing him. He came out, did his entrance. Everyone sang that goddamn song. And, you know, the 25 or 30-year-old wrestling fan of me is like, oh, man, there's Chris Jericho. He's one of the best. But then Jericho's Appreciation Society, Steve, are you buying this at all?
I'm not. Those 2 young men, I saw them at the airport the next day. They are the nicest kids in the world. And obviously, I think Jake Hager is a special talent. But daggone, that group sucks.
It's so bad. It's so bad. This is sometimes in the music world, we talk about things like when you're in being produced in the recording a record, if you were on a label, and I've done 2 of those things, where you worry about having too much influence. And then sometimes you realize like, oh, wow, this person knows more than me. I should listen to them. I think Chris Jericho needs a producer on some of this rest because I think he has creative control, right, Derek?
He does.
I would imagine he has to.
I think he needs an editor because I think I think he needs a producer like he does in the music in the recording studio, which I know he does. He's not a great singer, guys. But I think that's the problem with that. You know, we're talking about Bray Wyatt coming into WWE and having full creative control. I kind of trust him more than old Chris Jericho. But we're not talking about WWE. Let's go on. So we had some other matches. We're not going to do them all. One we wanted to hit on. Okay, obviously, you know, Bryan Danielson, 5-star classic. It could be a 5.5 to 6. But then we have some matches, and then we have the Ass Boys versus the Varsity Club, and the Varsity Club came out here to do the big job. And we see what Steve New said off camera of something that we've never seen before, we think. We have sons turning on dad ass. Derek Jones, do you like the Ass Boys and Badass Billy Gunn?
I do, and I'm not a big fan of Billy Gunn. I never was. I don't hate the guy. Just not a fan of the guy. He does nothing for me. He's a good wrestler, and he looks like $1 million, even at the age he is, taking nothing away from him. He's not my style of wrestler. But the Ass Boys, let me tell you, I'm a big fan. And Colton Gunn, in my opinion, is $1 million talent in the future. Austin, taking
he's a future world champ.
But I think Colton Gunn is a future world champion.
So the Varsity Blondes come out to take the big 10-second squash. Daddy Ass talks about how proud he is, and if you're a dad, and we're all dads here, like I would say that to my kids too. But then you just hope that Stephen New never wants Rebecca New to turn heel and kick his ass. So Steve New, as we're the historians on here, we've seen every brother team break up and fight.
Right.
All of them. But Steve New, have we ever seen dad get beat up by kids?
Right. Well, there are so few of those where you've got a dad and at least 2 sons. You know, you got the Von Erichs and you've got the Funks and you've got a few others, but that's rare. I couldn't imagine Dory Jr. and Terry turning on Dory Sr. So it's going to really elevate the Gun Club. I think,
I had a problem with the psychology of this. And when I watched it, it shows the value of good commentary. Like, man, Daddy Ass kind of shook that off and was like, sweet, let's fucking hang out with Cantor or Max Cantor. Like they didn't. This is where they got it wrong, I think. Derek, you can tell me if I'm being too much of a mark. It should be a bigger moment. We're dads. Like, imagine your kids just beat the shit out of you in front of 5,000 people and however many millions at the house. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, scissor me, bro. Hey, sweet, fuck those guys. Like, Derek, am I overdoing it?
No, you're not. And the end result should have been the same, but it should have been like 4 or 5 more weeks down the road of them slowly turning, and then beating the shit out of him one week. And he still comes back because he's the dad. And then they really put the boots to him. And that's when Max Caster and, the Acclaim comes out and does their thing.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that much at the time because I was just I've never been ringside for a TV taping. So I was still like 14-year-old, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm down here. Steve, do you think that is Max, is he big time? Is he going to be big time?
I think I think both of them. I think both members of the Acclaimed are going to be great future superstars. And I agree with Derek 100%. I think Colton Gunn's a future world champion.
I know the God Emperor's real high on him, but we had that. And a little bit too much of a hard right turn, as Derek said. I think they should have built up to it.
Too fast.
Pay off too fast.
And
the heaviness of the situation wasn't respected. You know what I mean? Like, he should really be like despondent after his kids that he raised and fed and came out of his wife or whoever there was and like it was like, whatever, man, I got these other dudes, it's cool, I just replaced you, I don't care. I guess maybe it works as a heel, badass Billy Gunn. So then we got some other matches and we got to get to this fucking main event. We knew he was coming. This was a historic day, and this was maybe the most historic day in all of West Virginia wrestling. Like, the last historic day was probably when Jim Cornette got arrested in Beckley. But we all knew it was going to be Kenny Omega. A huge moment. And man, I am not an Omega hater. And I think Derek sometimes gets pegged as more of an Omega mark than he actually is by the rest of us, because we just assume because he fucking is going to have an AEW tattoo on his ass one day. But man, and I was dreading it. I was like, Steve knew, God damn it, here comes Kenny fucking Omega. And I've seen him have great matches, and I'm not down on him like God Emperor is. But dude, that pop was Road Warrior style. Derek Jones, your people. He is the Jesus of your people, is he not?
Unfortunately, he is.
Okay,
yes.
Now expound upon that. I want you to get your Kenny Omega out, because I think we all have, to our detriment, just been like, Derek Jones fucking loves Kenny Omega, move on.
It's always that way. Everybody just assumes because I'm an elite guy and I'm with the Bucks that I'm automatically a Kenny Omega diehard, and I'm not. Like, I don't hate the guy. I hate when he has a microphone in his hand because I don't think he can talk for shit. But when he's in the ring, he's very athletic. He's very smooth. He tells a good story. And even when he was there, so he's back. He's recovered. He can move. He can work. But if you notice, he's still telling a story as if he's still recovering from an injury. He's still shaking off the ring rust. And there's no actual rust there. Like, he's building back into where he was, and he's making you believe that that's what he's doing. And I appreciate that, but I'm not like the biggest Omega mark. Now, you want to talk about the Bucks? I mean, look, I'll immediately reach up, and it's like action figures, I like the Bucks. That's the only reason Omega has anywhere in my book is because of the Bucks.
He's over. You like the Young Bucks so much that you like a guy who's like in their fucking field of friends. He's cool by association. Oh my God. Okay. So, we got that out of the way. Stephen New, of course, became a wrestling GIF the last time that Kenny Omega was in Charleston, because he was camera side and giving the jazz hands as only the concierge to the God Emperor Jim Cornette could. And you were like me. Oh God, and we were both checking our watches. This is how I know Stephen P. New has a Rolex. And because we were like, we're about to see a fucking 30-minute fucking match. We're going to see a 30-minute Young Bucks Kenny Omega match. Luckily, Kenny Omega took forever to get in the ring, and the match was not that long. Stephen New, did you appreciate the moment at all?
Oh, I really did.
Okay.
And I'll tell you who else. David Bixenspan, wrestling Twitter idiot savant that he is, posted that in the last 2 years, West Virginia has had more Google searches about AEW and its talent than any other state in the United States of America. We are the most AEW loving state in the union.
That's because 30% of those is from Derek Jones's phones and TVs. That is a skewed number, my dear law friend. Those numbers, you know, what did Mark Twain say about statistics? You know what I mean? And that's 30% of them are coming from Derek's house. So I don't know if I buy that shit.
Well, Derek Jones may be skewing the numbers there, as old Bix put out, but you could tell that anecdotally, not statistically, but anecdotally, you could tell that in the crowd. There were tons of Omega signs.
It was Road Warrior shit.
It was Road. I've heard the Road Warrior pop.
I have too.
For real. Mm-hmm. And this was a Road Warrior pop. There were signs. People were happy. They knew it was this historic moment.
I was thinking about it a little bit.
They wanted to be a part of this, but I think there's also some genuine love for Omega and the Bucks in that building.
Big time, dude. We saw so many goddamn Young Bucks t-shirts. The girls that were in front of us, they all had Young Bucks t-shirts on.
Yeah.
You know, I really just think this is, you know, me and Steve, and I know I can speak for Matt Mullins for sure. We just don't like these matches. It's not for us. And, you know, Derek always says in the chat, wrestling is different flavors for everybody. Now, Derek, I want you to speak on this match because I can tell you that I fucking hated it. I was sitting down for most of it. Derek Jones, mark out. Tell us about this great Young Bucks Kenny Omega match against those other guys.
Listen, if I would have went to this and the Young Bucks wouldn't have been there, it'd have been the worst event of all time. Don't care about that Punk promo. I wouldn't have cared about Moxley. I wouldn't have cared about the Ass Boys. Wouldn't have cared about Danhausen. I would have sat there so fucking sour. But they were there. They did all their good stuff. They it was heartwarming for me.
Oh my God.
I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm a Young Bucks fan, and I'm not afraid to say it. I was a Jin Me fan. It's legitimate. I'm not just saying that because I'm on a bandwagon. Like, I've got like old school merchandise and everything. I've got Jin Me autographs. I'm a fan. I don't know why, because it's not normally my style of wrestling. I don't care. I say it in our chat all the time just to piss everybody off. Wrestling is not one size fits all. It's my favorite thing to say because it's true.
It's true.
You guys like some stuff that I just think is absolutely stupid, but it is what it is. That's the fucking Iron Claw. I hate it. I think it's the dumbest move ever.
Those kids were trained from children to have strong hands by Fritz von Erich. The storyline says that when they were in the crib, he was giving them ball bearings to smash. It's a story. It's long form storytelling. That's what that is. But no, I mean, it's a really dumb fucking move. But it was over with me, man.
I'm not a huge Bucks fan, but they entertain me. You know, I don't think they're anywhere near as good a tag team as FTR, but when I watch them, they entertain me and they look like they're having fun.
They're definitely having fun. It's a different style of wrestling. You know, that lucha by way of Japan has been, and I don't think the God Emperor is fair enough with this. They do continue a legacy. It's not like they started it. You know, that over-the-top spot monkey shit, that's very Mexican wrestling. It's very Japanese wrestling. So if you want to look at it in a historical context, you can say that the Young Bucks are fitting into a niche genre that has always been there.
Hey, since you are a big music fan, and I don't know about Derek's music tastes, he never shares those.
It's all wrestling themes. He just listens to My World on fucking repeat.
Think about it this way. This is what I equate the Young Bucks to in a lot of ways. They're like white rappers or something, you know, because for a lot of American wrestling fans, they'd never seen. Just a few years ago, Derek and I were on this other show, which shall not be named, and I didn't know a lot about lucha, real lucha, or Japanese wrestling or anything like that. And I will tell you this, the the Young Bucks, I believe, just about more than anybody else, have exposed American audiences to this form of wrestling. So they're kind of Vanilla Ice, Kid Rock, Eminem, maybe they're like those guys, I mean, maybe they're like white rappers who expose another community to some other community's art.
Now, see what we just did there, Derek? We were able to, in our own little way, agree with you, sort of.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, you're 100% right on, because if you bring over a lot of that Japanese wrestling and some of the lucha style wrestling, the matches are nothing like what we normally watch. And they will put you to sleep if you don't have an appreciation for it, because it's a different style. Lucha wrestling is all over the place, but it's so scripted and rehearsed. It's slow in the ring because they have to take time to set up their spots even in the ring. And you see all that when you're watching it in those crowds, in their own crowds, people already are accustomed to seeing that. So they just appreciate it for the art that it is. The Bucks have found a way amongst some other wrestlers to take that style of wrestling and find ways to transition and make it look more of what we're used to. So people find an appreciation in it.
I didn't think we were going to get this positive about the Young Bucks, but we did. That's how cohesive of a unit the House of Kayfabe and the residents are. So of course they won. It was big fucking surprise. There was a real awkward heel turn on Dragon Lee at the end. That was just like a throwaway thing. It was just, who cares? I think, Derek, you're probably higher on Andrade Adioleolio than I am. Are you high on him?
Not really, no.
Okay.
And I was at one point when he was in NXT, but then he married Charlotte, and I was like, fuck that guy.
Oh my God. Steve, dude, do these luchas tickle your fancy at all?
Not really. I mean, the guy's got a gimp mask and Yankee baseball
pants on. So of course they win. We go off the road. We go off air, and then Omega. And this is how we can go back and tie this all in with the biggest story in wrestling, and maybe the biggest story of the year so far, because it's salacious, and wrestling nerds, we love salacious backstage heat shit because it makes us feel part of it. And it gives us something to talk about and, do shows like this. This is manna from heaven. So Omega, and I didn't think about it at the time because I was half listening to him because, man, he's as good as his Japanese matches were. And I watched all those, and that's why I'm pretty high on his ability to have great matches. This promo that wasn't aired, but of course was recorded and put on AEW's YouTube channel, there was a shot at FTR and CM Punk in that. Did you all catch it? He said, and Derek, you would be the one that would catch it because I knew me and Steve were half listening, and he was giving out cards to everybody in the section. He said that he's not a tribute act. Now we know that who did CM Punk basically have a move by move match from a Bret Hart match? Darby Allin.
It was Darby, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's an Omega shot. So that's a shot back from the Elite crew, and that puts us right back in. So Derek, when you heard that at the time, did that register?
Not so much with the CM Punk, but with FTR, absolutely.
Right.
So what has FTR done that was tributee?
They wrestled one another.
Yeah, well, almost every match, every singles match that Dax has, you can compare it to a Bret Hart match. And they're not afraid to tell you that a lot of stuff they do pays tribute to Bret Hart.
And Dax versus Cash was almost move for move Bret versus Owen.
Owen, yeah.
I missed that somehow. I was at a gig or something. I missed that. I did not watch that match.
Go back, and I think there have even been some people on the internet who've done side-by-sides.
Okay, so we've got Omega taking a shot at CM Punk. Now we know, and FTR, it looks like, Derek, you can speak on this, of course, being the vice president, probably president of AEW Twitter. We've got some factions in the back and factions out front. We got far too many factions out front, but it looks like we've got two big factions in the back. Has this been on the AEW Twitter radar for a while?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, from the beginning, with the exception of Jericho, nobody has put Jericho in that group of WWE X guys because, he's one of the ones that helped start it. He was, in Japan for a little while. He was at All In when All In happened. And, he's been more AEW recently than the others. But ever since they started bringing guys over that were ex-WWE wrestlers, there's a dissension, even amongst the fans at times of, I don't want this because of that. And they, then you have the WWE fans going, well, you scalp all our people and you're only successful because of our people. And then they forget 90% of their roster is Ring of Honor people. And it's ridiculous.
That's maybe that may be just a microcosm for this world in general, is we're too tribalist, and tribalism is moving. If you're in the meme world, tribalism has moved into AEW. Steve New, I know who you're rooting for, and I know you're not a big CM Punk guy, but I think that you probably see their point of view more than the elite group.
I just want a good fight. I just want a good fight. And if backstage heat gives us a good in-ring match, I'm all about it.
Like the guy behind us was saying during the whole match, or like when somebody would cut a promo, he would just yell, "Somebody hit somebody." Steve New, you are friends with one of the greatest minds in wrestling. This writes itself, right? You said it in the chat.
It writes itself.
Tony Khan doesn't have to do anything, right?
No, turn them loose. Let them go at it. Just, boys, don't kill each other. Don't hit each other for real. Let's see what you got out here. Cut promos on each other.
Shoot.
Don't kill each other. And I'm going to get out of your way, gentlemen.
Vince Russo may be, and Eric Bischoff may be proven right here. Is that controversy creates cash, and Vince Russo says everyone loves it when they think it's real.
WWE is perceived to be on this upswing right now because of Triple H. Triple H has got the book. Shawn Michaels just got elevated. You let word get out amongst wrestling fans. Hey, there's this real honest to God fight between people that can't stand each other. They're having matches between these elite guys and former WWE guys who call themselves real wrestlers, like CM Punk and FTR and Wardlow and, Miro, guys like that. You let those two camps form up and you'll get eyes back on AEW. What Derek was mentioning in the group chat the other day was that AEW hasn't won any of these former wrestling fans. At the height of Monday Night, the casual fan. 25 years ago, there were 6 million eyes every Monday night watching wrestling. Now it's down to about 1.5 million. Wouldn't you like to have those 4.5 million viewers back every Monday night, every Wednesday night? And so that's what AEW would love to win some of that audience back.
There's a content maker that I am actually internet friends with. I'm going to drop a name here in a minute, and actually worked as a consultant for WWE for a little while. His name's Max Landis. He's John Landis's son. He wrote the movie Chronicle. He wrote Bright on Netflix. He's kind of a big deal. And he said that we may be in a golden age of wrestling if they don't fuck this up. So Derek Jones, do you think, and are you more excited about wrestling right now than you were 1 year ago?
Absolutely.
So how can Tony Khan mess this up?
The only way Tony Khan can mess this up is if he ignores it completely. He doesn't have to jump the gun and go straight into what we're hearing is potential heat in the back locker room. Because I see the thing, and that's the thing that gets me, and that's what's most exciting about all this right now, is it just kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody was even talking about it until CM Punk went out and said something. Like, everybody knew the Hangman promo that happened back in May that said, I'm not going to keep this. I'm not going to beat you for this title. I'm here to protect AEW from people like you. And that's one of the rumors that's floating around. That's basically where this all started, but we don't know. There hasn't been any true backstage riffs or drama filled fights or anything. It's strictly based on what they think these guys are saying out in front of a crowd that's hurting someone else's feelings. And now they're utilizing it somewhere. But is it a work? Is it a shoot? I don't know. And that's the best part about it. That's what makes wrestling exciting. Like Steve said, all you got to do is stand back and let it happen. If these guys are true professional wrestlers that have not been trained by script writers, they can shoot from the hip because that's what they've always done, because that's how they had to get to where they are now. So just let them talk. Let them do what they know to do best. And then you have a veteran like CM Punk that knows trigger words that can bring in that live crowd interaction to a point where it's like, if you go out and call me this, people are going to ooh and ah. So let's do that.
Man, there was a lot of ooh and on because he was just shredding Jon Moxley. And then later, that promo worked on two levels, because at the time we were downright confused. We were 5,000 people like, what the fuck? Why is this happening? And then when 2 days later, it was like, whoa, this promo's even bigger and better than we thought. What do you think, Steve New?
Guys, I'm going to do a little Barry Horowitz here, and I'm going to pat myself on the back. Do you remember when Punk first came to AEW, how I said I would book him? I bet Derek does.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to know, everyone watching, it's the very first episode of our YouTube channel. It was recorded the night that CM Punk came back, and you can go back and listen to Steve New, but give us a little, Derek, can you remember what he said?
I don't. Listen, I was too excited. I remember running down the hallway, waking up my wife, letting her know that CM Punk had come back. That is a true story. You can ask her if you ever see her in public. It really happened.
It really did. Brittany thought something real was wrong in the
they have a kid. Something's wrong with the kid. No, CM Punk's back.
Household, and it was just right. So what I said in that episode was the one where Brian cried that CM Punk had made him wait 7 years to come back. I said I would book Punk against the Dark Order and have Colt Cabana waiting for him at the end.
Man, that's real stuff. Everyone knows that.
This is going to get real interesting.
Is he even with the company still, Derek?
Yeah. His contract renewal was a big part of what all this drama is about, because Khan was going to let him go. But a bunch of the elite side of things came in and advocated for him to stay in the company. So a lot of people were thinking that Punk was chirping in Tony Khan's ear to let his contract expire, just like Joey Janela and just like a few of the others. And that they came in, rescued him, and that Cabana will stay with the company. If you want to know when this gets real interesting, is when Colt Cabana comes out as part of the elite.
Derek, what do you think? We're the only two guys, I think, that are real high on Colt Cabana. I'm a big Colt Cabana fan, not just because of what he has done, allowing us to do what we do. If Colt Cabana didn't have, what was the podcast called, Derek? God damn it. Art of Wrestling, the Art of Wrestling podcast. Yep. We wouldn't be here. He's the fucking podfather of this whole thing. We knew, Derek, that CM Punk is a surly asshole. And were we destined to get here? It was just a matter of time. Was Triple H right about CM Punk?
You know, I really hope not. But I really hope that we end up seeing the blood feud that may spark that casual fan to tune in, because it becomes so real. You know, they'll start, bringing up, the lawsuit and everything else and putting it out into the media again, talking about these two guys really coming at blows. That will elevate AEW if they have a way to make that match happen on a big platform.
I just want them to be friends again, Derek. Can we have CM Punk? I want them to be friends again.
And they can be, but they will only it'll only work if they do it the same way that Brian Danielson and Daniel Garcia did it on Wednesday.
And the thing is, man, people forget, and I'm a big mat wrestling fan, and I've watched a bunch of the British style, what was it, a World of Sport type matches that Colt Cabana is really good at. He is a wrestling machine. Derek, I don't think enough people realize how fucking good Colt Cabana is.
No, and we talked about it the other day. It's because he got into this style of comedy wrestling, and that's all he wants to do right now. But it's not the only thing he can do. It's just what he wants to do. If you put that guy in a real, true grappling match, a real hard knocks fight in a ring, he'll shine. He will surprise people.
He's so good. He has a lot of what I love about William Regal's wrestling, which is that British European style chain wrestling, not a rest hold, but actual hold on somebody, trying to let someone, trying to submit somebody. So we're going to wrap this up around this. So where are we going? We thought that the pay-per-view was going to be a big, and I think this may be a misstep. And I want you to come with me, Steve New. We thought we were going to see a big old pay-per-view and some big money matches with Jon Moxley and CM Punk, and Tony Khan's going to hot shot that shit. And we're going to have a match on Wednesday for the interim champion versus the real champion. What do you think, Steve?
Well, I think I shared with you guys. I like the idea of MJF it turning into a triple threat match. MJF disrupting things Wednesday night in Cleveland, such that the match either can't conclude, never gets started, or something. With a triple threat at the pay-per-view. MJF pins Moxley. Punk never loses the title. And it's MJF versus Punk in a series of matches at that point to determine who's the best in the world.
So you just want to get Moxley all the way out of this storyline.
Well, there's other good storylines for Jon Moxley. I mean, at this point, he's been the AEW champion. He's been the AEW interim champion. I don't think Jon Moxley has anything to prove to anybody. I just wish he would stop doing this deathmatch idiocy. But anyway, that's how I'd like to see this angle play out over the next week leading up to Labor Day weekend and Chicago. So Derek's got some other thoughts on there. Derek, how would you fantasy book that?
So I know I've done this a couple different ways, and I kept saying it needs to be at Arthur Ashe Arena in New York because that's where he gets his biggest pop. And listening to you talk about it, if he shows up in Cleveland and he disrupts the match, turns it into a three-way, September 4th is All Out. He wins the title. He pins Moxley for the title September 4th to continue a feud with Punk. I say he doesn't show back up until Arthur Ashe. And that's where Punk comes in, cutting his promos on Chicken Shit Hill MJF that pinned, Jon Moxley after Moxley got hit with a GTS. And then he comes out as the world champion in his hometown that already absolutely loves the guy.
Man, he was over on that Long Island episode.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That was one of, I don't think, and I'm a big Tony Khan doubter, but man, he did that all right. They put MJF on his own high school football field. He came out in his varsity jacket in the hometown. Dude, that's just, Steve knew this shit could be so simple sometimes.
Yeah, it really can. There's a reason why Mick Foley called that the cheap pop. All right. It's the cheap pop for a reason. We're right here in Charleston, West Virginia.
Okay, so I just want it to be cool. That's all I want. I just want it to be awesome, and I want to see a great CM Punk match. I don't want him to go away. I don't want him to burn the bridges in the backstage, and then he become like a second-time disgruntled employee. Because if you go back and listen to the Art of Podcast or the Art of Wrestling, where it came out on a Thanksgiving, because I remember being at my parents' house and listening to it twice, where he just airs all the WWE dirty laundry. He doesn't care to burn this circus down. I don't want him to go there. And Derek, we both know that he has the capabilities of such things.
He absolutely does. And I really hope that and you know, a lot of this stems from him working an injury and not being given the proper treatment just from the get-go. And you know, he's irritated over it. So new home, new situation, keep the guy happy.
Same old punk. Same old punk. So that's our thoughts on the AEW Dynamite. And of course, we saw both tapings, the Dark Elevation. I got two things I want to end with. So there was, I'm sure by now everyone's seen it, a Japanese schoolgirl match against another Japanese schoolgirl who actually is pretty cool. And then her, who am I talking about? Maki Ito, Emi Sakura. Then we got
Maki Ito, Emi Sakura, and you had Kirishita.
Sky Blue.
And Sky Blue. So this is why Derek Jones is the wrestling encyclopedia. Shida, what's her name?
Akira Shida.
She comes to the ring with some outlaw looking belt that I had never seen before. And I'm like, well, I know a guy. And I text Derek Jones. I'm like, what the fuck is it? Because the thing about Japan is like Florida, but a country. There's 5 billion wrestling promotions and like 73 all female Juro Riso is I think what they call it, female wrestling promotions. And I said, Derek, go ahead and tell me what this fucking belt is. Tell me what that belt was, Derek.
And it was the Wave Regina D Wave title. It travels through Japan. Thank you.
And she just won it a couple weeks ago.
It was nice. Through the Kanawha Valley.
Jesus. And then one more thing before we get out of here. If you all know, we are a West Virginia centric podcast, and I have a bit of an issue with CM Punk because was the way that he introduced Hangman Page in the promotion. And I want to know if we're going to give CM Punk a pass on this, because West Virginians, we get real itchy fingered when people think that we're fucking Virginia. And he said there's a guy from around here or around these parts. Now, is around these parts broad enough, or did CM Punk not know where he was? Derek Jones, let me have it.
So that is also a jab at Hangman Page. So just so you know, so when Hangman Page was the world champion, he did a show in Virginia and kind of badmouthed West Virginia a little bit, talking about the song Country Roads and said it's a Virginia song.
It is.
And they sang it there. And he said F West Virginia. So that was another shot at Hangman Page.
CM Punk is a wrestling genius. This just in.
Yeah.
Did you know that, Steve?
Yeah, he sang Country Roads. I tweeted him. He may have blocked me after I tweeted him. And I told him he was a piece of crap for singing Country Roads in Virginia and acting like it was about out there. But anyway, one other thing that I want to tell, I had to fly out. I had work in New Orleans on Thursday and Friday. So I had to fly out of Charleston to DC Thursday morning at 6 a.m. I get to the airport. Guess who's there?
The roster.
I walk out of the Marriott and Jungle Boy's standing out there waiting for an Uber. I get up to the airport. There's all these wrestlers up there. There's Dustin Runnels and CM Punk sitting in the rocking chairs right outside the Seagate upstairs. Go downstairs. There's Kenny Omega, Claudio Castagnoli, everybody. People that weren't on the show, which causes me to scratch my head and wonder, why do you send the Butcher and the Blade to Charleston, West Virginia if they're not on the program? Seems like a waste of money to me. But FTR was also in town. That night at the Marriott, I saw Britt Baker. I saw Thunder Rosa.
Well, Thunder Rosa had a brief moment online.
They weren't anywhere on that show. Jake Hager was at the airport the next day.
So you're saying that like he could save a lot of money on trans if he just
save a lot of money on trans if you don't bring the entirety of the roster, much of which you don't use. But anyway, I put in our group chat the next morning, and none of the rest of the guys were up because it's like six in the morning. I'm boarding the plane. I'm on there with almost all of AEW's roster. I told Brian Resner, who was up, I said, we can have our own little plane ride from hell here this morning. I stirred up
No shit. Because that's the thing. Half that roster loves the God Emperor, one of your valued clients, and then the other half fucking hates him and are scared of him and need a safe space from Jim Cornette.
I didn't want Kenny Omega to do either of those, either to beat me up or to claim that I somehow intimidated him as the consigliere to the cult of Cornette.
I think he would think it was an intimidation. I think that he would feel triggered by your presence. I do.
But Claudio Castagnoli is the nicest man in the world. He will swing you, but he is very nice and very polite, and he's looking forward to being at WrestleCade with us, guys.
Oh, that's right. But before we go, remember, House of Kayfabe is invading WrestleCade one more time. We're going to have our Outlaw Mud Show podcasting set up in the creepiest part of the convention center. Come on in, Stephen P.
No, we're going to be up. We're doing it better this time because
I don't want to. I liked it. I liked being in like a scary, sketchy back room and trying to convince wrestling legends to follow us into the creepiest part of the convention.
Yeah, I want to go back there with Sam Houston again, Barker. I sure do.
So one more story. We can never get we tried to go for 30 minutes, but we fucking love doing this stuff so much, and we love marking out together, and we hope that you all enjoy it too. But I'll tell the story one more time. I am working Jordan Grace to come back to the pod center, and she's like, "Oh, sure, I'd love to." She's like, and I was like, Stephen P. News there just in case. And she's like, "Oh, Jim Cornette, he's just an asshole. I don't care." And she's like, "Where's the podcast?" And I'm like, back there where there's no one in this sketchy door, like where no one but like the caterers go. And she's like, "I'm good."
Right.
I'm good. But this time we're going to have a less rapey pod center set up. Hopefully Derek Jones is going to be able to see us. We're going to have Claudio Castagnoli. We're going to have Aubrey Edwards. I'm going to party with Aubrey Edwards. I'm going to see if I can get her to do shots with me later on.
Yeah, she's nice, very nice lady. She signed every autograph over at the Marriott. She talked to everybody.
Hey, she's the most over referee in the history of wrestling. Because I don't know if it came across on TV, because usually the referee is announced before the TV showing or the taping, before it's rolling. Dude, she was getting Road Warrior pops the 3 times that we saw her that night. She's the most over wrestling manager of all, or wrestling referee of all time. So if y'all dug all that and you want to tell us how we're fucking losers and WWE's the best, or tell us that we're fucking losers and AEW is the best, and if you want to be that hipster and tell me that you actually watch Impact, go to the comments section and tell us about it. If y'all dig all that, that's about it. Let's get out of here. I fucked that ending up. Ugh.
Great ending, bro.
Yeah, it was awful.